All right, thank you for staying with us. Now, the federal government has lost about 116.8 million naira since the suspension of the Abuja, Kaduna, and Warri Itakpe train services this month. Research showed that the federal government lost about 28.8 million naira in terms of revenue in the last 2 days in Abuja, Kaduna route and 88 million naira on the Warri Itakpe route in the last 8 days. How will this impact on the already lean government revenue? An analyst here in the studio, Jide Ojo, joins us to give perspectives to this. Thank you so much for joining us, Mr. Jide.
Happy New Year.
Same to you.
It's a pleasure. Good morning, Nigeria.
Yeah. We've seen this, the train services appears to be interrupted every now and then. If it is not an attack by terrorists or gunmen, it's derailment of the rail line and all that. Why is it happening in this manner, in this succession, within this, there seems to be consistency in this?
Okay, I think the challenges of rail services in Nigeria is multivarious. There are those, much of it, or many of those challenges, rather, is traceable to government's lack of preparedness for contemporary rail service or rail services. How do I mean? In the 60s up to the 80s, when we used to have locomotive trains, issue of vandalism, issue of terrorism, issue of banditry were insignificant, if at all they exist at that time. I recall my first train, the first time I boarded a train was in 1980. Myself and my elder sister from Ibadan to Jos. And we were there in the train from 9 p.m. Of the first day to the dawn of the third day. And issue of theft, of removing slippers and all of that, things that could cause derailment were not really very prominent then. I mean, you hardly will hear of derailment in that period of time. But since then, challenges of security has become phenomenal. We saw that in March 2022 when bandits attacked, Kaduna bound train and abducted scores of people, demanded huge sums of money. Eventually, and people died in that attack. Then we've seen the recent attack in Igwebe, where scores of people again were picked up like snails, even though not on train, but at least the station was their attack. Then we saw the derailment in Itakpe axis. So again, should we abandon rail services and concentrate on road and water and air? The answer is no. Today, the safest form of transportation, I dare say, is by rail. It's just that we need to the authorities need to tune their minds to the challenges of modern day train services.
This happens after the reassurance, coming from the suspension of the Kaduna-Abuja train, for instance, after the attack. We understand that surveillance systems have been installed to,
but
to make sure
that the MD saying that their security was not optimal. They still needed to beef up, quite a number of things still needed to be done. And you see, I appreciate the fact that they didn't suspend the Igwebe train services after it, because they knew that would give the attackers, cause for joy. However, my worry, again, why we blame government for not being optimal in their surveillance and security beefing up? What about you and I, the ordinary citizen that goes to vandalize train, rail, is it slippers they call it, and all of that. Remember, I saw a footage just a couple of days ago. Ordinary citizens going to remove those stuffs and thereby causing derailment. I think that is lack of patriotism. And it's like pipeline, and that's where I'm making allusion. In the 60s, we built oil pipelines across the country. And with that, we are able to channel petroleum products through these pipelines to various depots. Today, even in spite of the alleged 20 billion naira annually being spent on repairs of these pipeline vandalism, we are still not there. Today, products are being trucked from Lagos to all parts of Nigeria.
Mr. Ojo, there was a report that said that the total revenue generated from passengers from railway dropped by 1.48 billion in the second quarter of 2022. Now, this is an infrastructure that was constructed with loan. Yeah. We're supposed to be paying for this loan. As a matter of fact, between 2016 and 2022, 246 billion naira was spent on servicing of that loan. Now, if we're not getting revenue from this, what happens to that loan?
Well, it becomes a bad debt. I mean, would that be a bad debt? Actually, we still have to pay. The bottom line is that incoming administration. Now, Stella, the truth is, let's look forward to incoming administration. This administration, as far as I'm concerned, they are wit's end. According to the president, he said he has put in his best. If somebody says, I've done my best for you, now we are counting down. So we need to address this to incoming administration. There's Ministry of Transportation. When that attack took place, it was the minister, the one on Kaduna Road. It was the Minister of Transportation that said, look, I had said that we should have a surveillance and the fake threw it out and all of that. But when we got to know the nitty-gritty of that, we saw that it was more like self-serving. However, coming back to the issue of debt, how will you not incur debt? First, railway service is mass transit. And if there is security, you are likely going to have more people preferring to travel by rail than even by road, because the roads are even much unsafe than the rail. But the reason why there is no heavy patronage again was after that attack that took place in March of 2022. And of course, they have to shut down the rail services for some 3 months or until the last of the abductees who are rescued or released. So since that time, people became cautious. I don't know whether you read my article a couple of weeks back. I went to Kaduna. Ayuba, I went from Abuja to Kaduna, but let me tell you how I traveled. It was to present a paper at a workshop. The organizers of the workshop flew me from Abuja to Lagos to connect flight from Lagos to Kaduna. Kaduna, that is less than 3 hours there. Why? Because it was that same weekend that the abduction in Igwebe took place. And the organizer was thinking, if they pick this man, it's on us. We have to be looking for ransom, because the best way, given the whole hoopla about unsafe road, is for us to have traveled from Abuja to Kaduna by rail.
Yes.
But because of what happened that Saturday, we were to travel on Sunday. When that incident in Igwebe happened, I think the organizer said, we shouldn't mind the cost. So we flew. I left my own
ticket fare is cheaper than ransom.
Of course, tickets is. So we flew to Lagos, then connected Lagos by here to Kaduna. I wrote about it in my column in The Punch about 2 weeks ago. That is how insecurity has impacted negatively on traveling for Nigerians. Now, the economic loss is as a result of fear that is in the minds of the people that train is no longer safe. Because once between, they said twice shy. Now you have the Kaduna.
And that seems to be the target of the terrorists, is it?
Yes, because now you have the one for Kaduna. As I did before that attack, the Nigerian Railway Service was recording optimal patronage to the extent that people were not getting tickets to buy. If you recall, Stella and Ayuba, people who want to buy. I only traveled that route once by train. People were not getting trade. I recall that at some point there was a news report that a helicopter was flying ahead of the train to provide some security support. But the day that attack successfully took place, and we were told that abductees were asked to pay 100 million naira ransom, that was the day many people lost it and said, look, if I can't go by road again, go by train again, no matter the cost of traveling by here, I will. But now, all hope is not lost. The infrastructure has been built. What we need to do is to reinforce the security in the train and on the corridors, on the rail corridors, to ensure proper surveillance, proper security, intelligence gathering. Get the communities involved to provide intel. When there is sufficient security, I still believe many people will come back. Did you know that it's cheaper for even petroleum products to have been transported from Lagos to Kaduna using the train? Because there are cargo trains. There are those trains that can actually transport and will not spoil our road the way the articulated vehicles are. So the twin challenge, basically, in my final submission, is the twin challenge is security. That's what has dipped the income from rail service, but sufficient security around it will make us to bounce back, and we'll be able to pay our debt and even make profit.
All right, thank you so much.